Good afternoon. It is Monday, September 26, 2023, and I now call to order this special meeting of the Wayzata School Board. Will the clerk please call the roll? It's Tuesday.
Milan Sahoni,
Present.
Linda Cohen. Here. Heidi Cater.
Here.
Bonita Lucky. Here. Cheryl Poseen.
Here.
Sheila Pryor.
Here.
Chase Anderson.
Here.
Sarah Johansson.
Here. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for that. I will correct this. It is Tuesday, September 26, 2023, that we are having this special meeting of the Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education. The first item on our agenda this afternoon is the approval of the agenda items, and I would like to propose a small change to our agenda. As currently detailed in the board packet, the first item is on our agenda would be administrative reports and recommendation and a finance operations recommendation for the preliminary payable levy. The second item was going into a closed session, and the third item was a finance operations and a resolution regarding a purchase agreement. The amendment to the agenda will be that we will move the closed session to be agenda item A, and then that will be followed by the current agenda item A, the finance and operations recommendation for the preliminary payable levy. And then the third item is the finance and operations recommendation regarding the resolution. So again, the agenda will be closed session, levy, and then the resolution. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I so move.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded, and this will be a roll call vote.
Linda Cohen.
Yes.
Sheila Pryor.
Yes.
Heidi Cater.
Yes.
Bonita Lucky.
Yes.
Cheryl Poseen.
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes.
Sarah Johansson.
Yes. Okay, we have an agenda. And the first item on our agenda is to move into closed session. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3C3, the Minnesota Open Meeting Law allows the school board to close a meeting to develop or consider offers or counteroffers for the purchase or sale of real or personal property. The property being considered is at 13305 12th Avenue North in Plymouth, Minnesota, zip code 55441, and the recommended action is to move the board into closed session. Is there a motion to that effect?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved in second. We'll take another roll call vote.
Sheila Pryor.
Yes.
Heidi Cater.
Yes.
Bonita Lucky.
Yes.
Cheryl Poseen.
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes.
Linda Cohen.
Yes.
Sarah Johansson.
Yes. The time is now 6:03, and the board will move into closed session. Okay, the time is 6:33, and we are now back into the special meeting of the Wayzata School Board. The next item on our agenda is under Administrative Reports and Recommendation, and it's Finance and Operations Recommendation regarding the preliminary 2023 payable 2024 levy certification. And as our PowerPoint gets pulled up, I will turn it over to Dee Dee Kering, our Director of Finance and Operations.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Anderson. It seems like this levy cycle comes up quickly every year. So we have been working with our staff to enter into the levy process through the Department of Education, our levy information, and have some preliminary numbers that I will share with you tonight. I did have an opportunity to get to share them with the CFAC committee this morning, so I apologize, some board members are getting a second chance at hearing it. So the preliminary 2023 payable 2024 levy certification is as follows. So the levy limitation, initial part of it is one part is done now and then another part in December. So the deadline is September 30th, thus the meeting right now. We're still in kind of that stage where the Department of Ed is making some changes and it's kind of ongoing. But anyhow, the information that comes forward on the levy certification does get to the Hennepin County auditor for the proposed property tax statements. The final levy certification, as I mentioned, will be December 11th, and we will have that during our regular meeting. We will have what's called a truth and taxation meeting. It's a required meeting, and individuals from the community can participate and ask questions about that. So the Department of Education calculates the tax levy. The levy documents that we get is about 40 pages long, filled with formulas. And we review those and work with the Department of Education. So this fall approval is for taxes payable in 2024. It is for fiscal year 24-25 for our budget for next school year. So we're a year in advance. So what causes increases and decreases in levies? Well, it is state law. So legislature that just got done in May can impact tax laws as well. Our pupil units, a number of students that we have, and by the weighting factors, and there's a number of formulas that go into that, that can change whether it's up or down, and we've experienced a little of both in the last few years, as well as our population, as impacts mostly the community education budget. And then the market value or the tax capacity, what is our tax base, what that grows and changes, and we'll see an example of that coming up. And then changes in expenditures as well. Some levies are based directly on expenses of the school district, and then we can levy for those. One might be for consideration is our child care program for special needs students. That is based on expenditures. So the proposed payable 24 versus last year's final levy, that's what this is demonstrating. So we only get tax levy dollars for the general fund, community service, and debt service. And those three categories on there, you can see what the levy was last year. The total was 88 million. And this year, the proposed levy is just 72.6 million for the general fund, community service at 2 million, and debt service. Debt service is to pay our principal and interest payments at 17.7 for a total of 92,414,000. The changes that you see on the side, while they might be up and down, the main thing that you should be looking at is the total change, and that total change is 4.9%. It is a little higher than it was last year, but I'll go through and explain some of that to you. So individually, we'll go through each of these categories. We'll spend a little more time on the general fund because it's the largest portion of this, the levy. So looking at that general fund, the referenda or RMV, referendum market value, so those taxes that are based on that, the voter approved levies, so these are our operating referendas, that amount goes up considerably this year for a couple of reasons. So you'll see a 6.5% increase, and that's due to increase in our enrollment. It is due to increases in past adjustments. So as we figure out, we initially make an estimate of what our enrollment is, and that might change whether it's positive or negative, and those adjustments flow in as well. And also, as you recall, on our operating referenda, we do have an inflation factor on our per pupil amount, and that is going up as well. So the per pupil amount is adjusted from 2,101 to 2,156. And then within that 6.5 are some of those adjustments that I talked about, and there are a number of different categories that occur. Again, all calculated by the state of Minnesota based on voter-approved levies going forward. Then on the RMV, I'll go stay on that one for a little bit longer. Thank you, Amy. The RMV other, there's a number of things related to kind of operating referenda. One is called the location location operating revenue. And that is where the state, I think it was back in 2015, moved some of the money out of a district who had an operating referenda into this LOR. And that provided an opportunity for school districts that might not have had an operating referenda to be able to provide operating referenda dollars to those schools. For our district, it meant it came out of our operating referenda, went into LOR. We didn't lose any money. It's just in a different category. So that category is up about 2.17 million. Again, some just straight increases due to enrollment going up, as well as some prior adjustments that caused that number to go up. The next category is the NTC voter approved. This is our capital tech levy, our capital project referenda, same item. This one is tied directly to the net tax capacity. So it's indexed as a certain percent of net tax capacity. So when you look at the ballot, you'll see it will say it's 4.26%, I believe is the number in the ballot. That means that it's 4.26% of whatever the net tax capacity is. So as the tax capacity goes up, so does the tech levy. If it should go down, it would go down as well. Our net tax capacity went up considerably this year, and therefore that tech levy went up along with that. So we're grateful for those dollars. And then the last one is net tax capacity other. The majority of this is our long-term facility maintenance. So we receive those funds, and it's net against, it's valued against net tax capacity. And the reason you see such a big decrease this year is for a few reasons. One, we had some large adjustments because we were unable to get projects done within the particular year, and so they take those monies back. We also were not able to execute some of the projects that we thought we would, so it's okay to give the money back. That's what we should be doing. As well as, and I'm going to talk further about it, but when we passed, when the board authorized the sale of those $3 million in bonds that we just sold, if you'll recall, I mentioned to you, we are going to decrease our long-term facility levy to offset the increase in our debt payment, so that taxpayers will not feel any increase due to the issuance of those bonds. So they are offset on each other. So that's part of that as well. So the biggest piece of that is LTFM. There are some other categories in there, such as operating referenda or operating capital and some other smaller referendas, but levies, excuse me, the net tax capacity other is mostly made up of that LTFM. So all in all, on the proposed on the general fund, going up 3.84% overall. Again, that bottom line is really the main category to be looking at. There can be ebbs and flows between those. Next, if we look at the community service budget, or levy, excuse me, for 2024, you'll see not a lot of changes. This is the smallest levy that we have, but very important to the community services budget. It does pay for some of the early education programs. It pays for community services in general, and early childhood, child care as well. So slight variation. Some of this is due to population estimates. Some of this, where it's a negative amount, has everything to do with adjustments from prior years. So overall, about $130,000 less than the previous year. Next, when we look at the debt service, you'll see some, again, categories within that might be different. Again, you'll want to look at the whole piece to look at the story that's behind it. So that first line, that's mostly our general obligation bonds, could be our abatement bonds as well, but we're required to levy 105% of what those principal and interest payments are, and the reason for that is to assure that we make the payments on those bonds. Then the next line you see is the debt excess. That is funds left in that fund balance due to the fact that, one, we've levied at 105%, so more than we needed, and two, When we've reissued bonds for refunding purposes to save principal and interest, that affects our debt excess as well. And so there's always a change in that number from year to year. What's always interesting to look at is we had a debt excess of 897,000 credit last year. This year, it's 639, so the net effect is it's actually going up. So it's challenging to get your head wrapped around all of that, but that is the math that goes through it. And then our alternative facility bonds that we levied some bonds when we didn't have as much authority in LTFM. Those bonds are used to then do projects, and payment comes out of this. Again, between this and the levy on the top line, you can see the differential between those two. And what I shared with the CFAC this morning is when you are creating a debt schedule to pay principal and interest payments, you want those to be as level as you possibly can. And as older bonds fall off, you want the newer bonds to kind of fill in that spot so you keep it a little more level. And that's what's going on here. The top line is going up, and the alt facility bonds, those bonds are less of those being paid out of principal and interest. The next is a debt excess as it relates to alternative facility, and then those adjustments that we have in every other category. Long story short, the majority of the $1.76 million increase has to do with those bonds that we sold just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And again, as a reminder, that's going up, but LTFM is going down to meet that need, okay? Next slide. Might be a little hard to see, but those that were on CFAC this morning, I did not have this. I got this from Ellers today. And as I thought, if a home value remained the same from year to year, meaning you had no appreciation in your home value or the valuation didn't go up, property taxes for the school district portion would actually be going down, okay? And that's because our tax is not going up at the same rate as our net tax capacity is. Our net tax capacity was going up in the neighborhood of 16% this year. Huge. Usually it's around that 6% that's been, but it went up a lot. Why does it go up? Valuations go up because of sale of homes and what they're realizing for increases in property values, as well as new homes being built, as well as new commercial, industrial, and apartments going up. So all great news for the school district, but it also then gives some relief to our taxpayers as well. The next slide then is just looking at commercial, industrial, and apartments, and same concept here, because our tax is going up at only 4.9% overall, and the net tax capacity is going up greater. Individuals will see actually a negative amount there. I think I have one more slide. Oh, 2 more slides. So next steps for this. So what we ask boards always, and I've never been in a school district that hasn't done this, but there could be reason. Approve the preliminary levy at the maximum, which all that means is as the state of Minnesota continues to work on our levies and get them all the formulas calculated and done right, that this can change based on that. It doesn't mean we get to levy as much as we want. We're limited based on the formulas, based on statute and what's in there. So it just provides that opportunity to get everything fixed before the tax statements go out. And then I mentioned the Truth in Taxation, the public comment meeting will be on the 11th of December, and then we would ask you to certify the final levy at that time, and then all the numbers would be final. I believe they'll be very close to this. There's one adjustment that I know that they're working on, and they haven't received it yet. So, but I've got them in my numbers. So, and with that, then I think the last one is just the total amount of the approving. The recommendation is to approve it at the max, and you can see the early estimates of what that means for our certification of our levy. With that, my presentation, and would ask the board then to consider the rest of the agenda item.
Okay, thank you so much. Board colleagues, the recommended action is to approve the preliminary 2023 payable 2024 levy limitation and certification at the maximum amount allowed by the state. Is there a motion to that effect?
I so move.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Millen?
I have a question for you, Didi. If you can go back to the slide which says next steps.
Yeah.
Second to last slide.
Yeah.
I think I remember that, but I want to make sure I'm asking you the right question.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. So approval today, oops. Approval today, and then the truth in taxation and public comment, and then November 12th. is
No,
the-
sorry, I've got it as December 11, 23.
Oh, okay.
Yep, December 11th.
December
is-
11, 23, okay.
Yep,
So that final levy, is that also the same number as the maximum levy? Or is that, would that,
No, not
would that be
necess-
different?
not necessarily. So what I presented tonight is preliminary. It's the best information we have as of today. And as I mentioned, the Department of Education will be fine tuning this. I mean, from Friday to yesterday, they made big changes. I knew what they were going to be, but they made big changes. And so it could change again between now and Friday. I don't think we'll see anything that we weren't expecting. For instance, we have an ice arena levy that they haven't recognized yet. But I know it's going to be there because they've told me. So I've got it in my numbers, but if I looked at this long document from them, it's not in there yet. So,
So if we certify 4.9% today and Department of Education comes back on December 11th and says, no, it should be 5.5, then what happens? They cannot do that?
0.5.
They cannot do that, right? They can, it has to be 4.9.
No, if they determine between now and they really only have the first part of October to make major changes, then they have it ready so that they can mail out the property tax statement. So it would only be if they made a huge error in something, would they change it.
Okay. And it,
And you can always under levy. So let's say if they came back at 5.65% and we didn't feel comfortable going forward with that, we could under levy in another category and we could do it at that meeting in December.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you. That was my question.
Yeah, of course.
It is important also to understand that that the board, the action that you are not going to vote on does not give a number in our action, right? That it was very clear that the recommended action is to approve the preliminary levy limitation certification at the maximum allowed by the state.
Right.
And that maximum then provides the finance department the ability to have flexibility. There's not,
Correct. So we actually have a form, it's one pager, and where it says levy amount, we type in the word maximum. It's signed by Benita or Cheryl, or Sarah, excuse me, and is then submitted to the Department of Education. And then they can finish doing their work. Sometimes you may have a reason to just do a flat amount because your taxpayers, maybe it was going up too much, and you could just say, we're going to limit it to this. You could do that. I would not recommend that here. The change that'll come forward will be minimal. And as I said, if we felt it was uncomfortable, we would just under levy before that December meeting. You can write it in.
Cheryl.
A question, so I can understand. Could you clarify? There were two charts that showed that the residential properties, their taxes would go down if their valuation didn't change, if it remained the same. Is that correct? And then the same for the
For the next one. Yep,
For the-
both of
so-
them were the same.
Okay, and so these estimations are that, to get our numbers that we have, that it's going up 4 point whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
Does that include any estimated valuation changes or?
No.
That's
It would be
based on-
impossible to do that. So whenever for instance, when we ask Ellers to prepare something for the tech levy, for the operating referenda, you always have to look at property value staying at the same rate from the same rate. There is just absolutely no way to do that. So you always look at a property value at $400,000 is $400,000, and here's the effective tax on a $400,000 home. Yep.
Thank you.
No, good question.
Any other questions? Hearing none. The recommended action is to approve the preliminary 2023 payable 2024 levy limitation and certification at the maximum amount allowed by the state. And this is a roll call vote.
Bonita Lucky, yes. Cheryl Posey,
Yes.
Milan Sohoni,
Yes.
Linda Cohen,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor. Yes. Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Sarah Johansson.
Yes. Okay. Motion
Thank
carries
you.
unanimously. Thank you. And you have one more.
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Anderson, as you recall, we were just recently in a closed session to talk about a property located at 13305 12th Avenue North in Plymouth, Minnesota. In your information is a cover sheet talking about a building that the district is considering purchasing for an administration building. And the acquisition of the property was discussed on how we would pay for that. The resolution that's in front of you is providing an opportunity for the superintendent and myself to act on behalf of the school board to go into negotiations, finalize a purchase agreement, sign for the purchase agreement, and execute that contract, bring that back for ratification with the school board when that has occurred. And so the resolution is before you. It's been drafted by our attorney, Bree, who we've been working with on all of this property acquisition. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board colleagues, the recommended action, please take note that it's a resolution, is to approve the resolution authorizing the superintendent and/or the executive director of finance and operations to negotiate and execute a purchase agreement for the purchase of property located at 13305 12th Avenue North in Plymouth, Minnesota, zip code 55441. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And does the maker of the motion wish to waive the reading of the resolution?
And I wish to waive the reading of the resolution.
I would second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now is our time for discussion. Millen?
Yeah, thank you. So as I began to analyze the data provided last week and after a brief clarification meeting yesterday, there were several things which came to mind. Number one, the resolution involves a lot of constituents' money. I wish I had a little more time and opportunity to get a feel for the constituents' opinion with transparency to make a decision. When we resolved to purchase the 1903 building, I was absolutely not aware of the additional cost of about $4 million that was disclosed, much later after that. In my opinion, the operating capital contribution of $1.9 million can be used for other items such as textbooks, a new roof on a school building, etc. The $750,000 to be pulled out of the tech levy is also something that I believe would be well spent on existing technology needs and for our primary stakeholders, the children in our schools. Even if I ignore all these concerns, to me, spending this much money on centralizing the offices during major cost containment does not bode well. I've struggled with the decision, although not overwhelmingly opposed to the resolution. At this time, I am unable to support it. However, what I can assure my colleagues on the board is that I will certainly support the decision of the majority and stand behind the decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other comments? Cheryl?
I understand that spending more money than we thought we would have to is unfortunate. But I also, I guess just in a nutshell, I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish, so to speak. I think that the goal to co-locate our entire administrative team that we've been sort of trying to do for many, many years, but we always put student needs first as far as building capacities and whatnot. I think that we don't want to miss an opportunity. I think that if the purchase price that we think we can get is available, it's money well spent to do the job right. And I think that although we were excited to get a building that we thought was going to meet our needs on Wayzata Boulevard, after our due diligence, we discovered many, many things that in reality would have been difficult to do, time-consuming for people, taking a lot of attention and funding away from our core purpose, and that's to focus on students and their education. And I'm not sure that this building is perfect, but that's what the next period of due diligence will be about. And we'll be able to consider in great detail whether this is a great move. So I'm supportive.
Linda?
Yes. Interestingly enough, I find that purchasing this building is very much student-centered. If our administration can work more effectively if they are located in one spot instead of spread out all over the district, I think that it very much is in the best interest of our students. I'm very supportive.
Heidi?
I'm also supportive of this move to take the next steps in our due diligence with the building in Plymouth. We're asking our administrators to do some really big things for our community, and that includes reducing disparities in the opportunity and the achievement gaps. And so in order for that to happen, I think it's really, really important for all of our administrators and staff to be in the same building so that that collaboration can happen quickly and move us forward. This is something that the district has been working on for many years. And so I also don't want to miss an opportunity that's there. I talk to a lot of organizations in my professional world, and they spend millions of dollars on an annual basis to make sure that organizations are able to collaborate. We're not planning on doing that. We're doing one big funneling in, and that's it. We're just asking for one amount of money once so that our administrators and staff can do the work that our students really, really need to move those achievement gaps forward. So I am supportive.
Sheila?
If the money could have been used for teachers, I can see saying, no, now is not the right time, but not doing it now would be a huge missed opportunity. And I do think it is going to benefit students. And, you know, we're taking administrators out of student space and moving them here. So I'm also supportive.
I do just want to identify a couple of things that we talk about in around our technology levy and the work that we're doing. And we talk about how technology is used in our schools to provide up-to-date technology devices for all students and staff, to provide instructional software and online resources, to provide interactive classroom equipment, tools for communicating with students and families, for safety and security, school safety and security systems, and cybersecurity and student data privacy, and for support, staff training, troubleshooting, and repairs, and network infrastructure and reliable internet environment. The location that we are doing and what we are looking at is moving our technology group out of a building that needs to house and educate students that's overcrowded and putting it into a place that has the resources of top-of-the-line fiber and a generator and a loading dock and all the things that will allow our staff to do all of those things, including working as a team to enhance safety and security support and our teaching and learning operating systems. And so it is for that that I see that this is in alignment both in the best needs of our technology as well as the best needs of the management and organizational structure of our district. And I too am in support of this purchase. And any other discussion? This is a resolution, so it's a roll call vote.
Linda Cohen,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Bonita Lucky, yes. Cheryl Posey,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni,
No.
Sarah Johansson.
Yes. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. And we had 3 items on our agenda for this afternoon for this special meeting of the school board, and we have accomplished all of those agenda items. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning this special meeting on Tuesday, September 26, 2023, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education special meeting is adjourned.
These at the